Hello everyone, and welcome to Geek Level Asian. My name is Robbie, and today we're going to talk about Stranger Things Season 2. I'm a little late with this, so sorry about that. So I'm not going to do an entire review of Season 1. If you haven't watched Season 1, you shouldn't be watching this video, because this is going to be spoiler heavy, spoiler central. Do not blame me if you watch this and you learn things that you didn't want to know, because I'm telling you now, spoiler city. Now that we got that out of the way, let's begin. Stranger Things Season 2 takes place almost a year after the events end in Season 1. Very briefly, Eleven is missing. We don't know where she is. It seems like she got taken to the Upside Down. We don't really know. She just kind of disappeared when she fought off the Demogorgon and saved the three boys. But of course they leave you hanging because David Harbour, who plays Hopper, goes to this box in the forest and leaves Eggos in there, and that's Eleven's favorite food. Mike is heartbroken. He just shared his first kiss with this girl that he fell in love with, and now she disappeared. She might not even be on the same planet, world, realm, whatever you want to call it. And although we have Will back, it seems like he's shifting in and out of the Upside Down and our world, our reality, back and forth, and then he coughs up a slug. So although a year has gone by, Mike is still pretty upset about Eleven, and anybody would be, everyone would be upset about losing a friend, but he's obviously taking it harder than everybody else because they actually had a thing. So instead, we're going to talk about some things that I liked, and some things that maybe I thought could have been a little better or maybe different. So here we go. 5 things that I liked about Stranger Things Season 2. Number 1, the characters that were introduced, particularly Sean Astin's character, Bob Newby. And although I've never met Sean Astin, I will meet him this weekend. Side note, awesome side note, but side note, I feel like I've grown up with this guy. I mean, he was in The Goonies, he was in Encino Man, he was in Lord of the Rings, he's the voice of Raphael in the Nickelodeon Ninja Turtles, he was in all of these Adam Sandler movies. He's been around for a long time, and to see him in a show that is supposed to take place in the 80s, and he was like this really big 80s, early 90s icon, it's really fitting, and I think that he played this role tremendously. It may not seem very difficult, but to play a character who's A, supposed to be a nerd, but B, we're also supposed to love them. We're also supposed to love them so much that it's heartbreaking when that person dies at the end. Again, I said this was spoiler central. That's not easy to do, especially in 9 episodes. We really got attached to Sean Astin's character, Bob Newby, in the first, maybe 3 episodes. I was already I love him in this show. And he is I talk with my hands a lot, I'm sorry. He's the opposite of Hopper. Hopper's the big, strong, quiet, cool guy who can shoot guns. Bob Newby is the tech geek who started the AV club, who wants to settle down and start a family. They're very different characters. And I'm really glad that the Duffer Brothers didn't just make him, the guy who's in love with Joyce. He was actually integral to solving the entire mystery. It was Bob who figured out what Will's drawings were when he was drawing the underground tunnels. It was Bob who knew BASIC and was able to reboot the security system in the facility. Hopper couldn't have done that. He could have gotten there. He could have gotten downstairs, no problem. But he wouldn't have been able to actually reboot the entire system like Bob did. And as many of us, especially those who are around my age and grew up in the 80s, we know that Sean Astin is from The Goonies. I love the fact that they did a little pirate joke in that episode. That was pretty funny. So number 2, the second thing that I liked about Season 2, a lot of people might disagree with, because I've read online that a lot of people didn't like Episode 7. I didn't really have a problem with Episode 7, and I'm going to tell you why. Yes, does it take you out of Hawkins? Does it kind of take you out of the neighborhood and what's going on there? Does it seem a little bit out of context? Maybe. But there are things that happen in that episode that are extremely important. Hello, we met number 8. The entire first season, I kept thinking to myself, are we going to meet the other kids that were experimented on? Because that would be really cool if they came together and formed a team. Almost maybe like the X-Men? First Class? X-Men First Class? Really similar to X-Men First Class? Sorry. But we learned that number 8's power was different than 11's, which is actually kind of cool that all of them don't have the same exact power, because that would be kind of boring as a show. But we've also never measured the extent of 11's power, and I think that's the important part that we learned in this episode. In the first season, yeah, we see that her nose bleeds and she gets really tired when she uses her powers, but basically everything she's ever tried worked. She flipped the van, she squeezed a bunch of people's brains and they all died. Anything she tried, she was able to accomplish. This is the first time that we've ever seen her try to do something, like pull a train in Episode 7, where it's almost too big and she's not really able to do it. She may not be strong enough. We've never seen that limitation before. And that episode, that scene, understanding where all of her anger comes from is a very big part to the last episode when she's trying to close that rift between our reality and the Upside Down. I mean, that's a pretty big rift. And, you know, flipping a van is one thing, yeah, and her nose would bleed, which I'm sure is painful or at least weird every time. It's very fitting for us to know where she draws her energy from, where she gets that strength to be able to do something like that. So, although, was it the best episode? Maybe not. But do I think it was important? Yes, I do think it was important. Was it executed perfectly? Who am I to say? But I did not like that episode like other people that I'm hearing and reading online. Number 3, and I believe that this is probably the way that they originally wrote season 1, it was time for Jonathan and Nancy to get together. I mean, they kind of hint at it the entire first season. And after watching Beyond Stranger Things and learning that Joe Keery's character Steve was actually supposed to be kind of a human villain in a way, we were supposed to not like him, and then they decided to change that and let him evolve because they loved the character so much, it makes me believe that he was not supposed to end up with Nancy. Jonathan was. But finally, in season 2, that actually happens, and I think it's a really funny scene. They did it really well, and it actually makes sense contextually. You know, we have these two people who are obviously emotionally and physically attracted to each other, who are denying their feelings for each other left and right, saying, oh no, we're just friends, but you need someone to kind of push you over the edge. And who better to do that than Brett Gelman? I loved him in this season. My favorite line of his is actually something that I'm not gonna say, but it has to do with a pull-out couch. That's all I'm gonna say. And he's the guy in the neighborhood, nobody believes any of his conspiracy theories about aliens, and I'm sure he talks about ghosts and paranormal stuff, but he is able to read Jonathan and Nancy just by looking at them, and he's pretty much the reason why they admit to themselves, you know what, yeah, we do have a thing, let's explore that. Literally, they explored that. Which kind of brings me over to the 4th thing that I really liked about this season, which is Steve. In the first season, for the first maybe like 5 episodes, I hated Steve. He really annoyed me, but that's because he was good at playing that part of being the, you know, the jealous boyfriend or being a mean guy. But, you know, as season 1 started to progress, we saw him, redeem himself and come back to the Byers house to basically just beat the Demogorgon up with a bat with nails in it, which they bring back in this season. But Steve is now a different type of character. We actually feel bad for him in this season. Steve's story arc is so depressing that, like, by the end of the season, by the last episode, you're kind of just like, wait, that's it? Nothing good happens to Steve? There was a hashtag floating around on Instagram, Daddy Steve, because he basically becomes the guardian of all the kids. He's the one who goes and helps Dustin when Dustin needs help with Dart in the basement. He's the one who protects them in the bus. He's the one who protects them down in the tunnels. Steve actually did a lot in this season, and what did he get in return? Nancy spends the night with Jonathan. Sorry, Steve. Now, there were a lot of things that I really liked about this season, but I would say the final thing, number 5, the 5th thing that I liked about the season was the relationship between Hopper and Eleven. Putting these two characters together was something that I never saw happening in the first season, but I relate it kind of, in a way, I relate it to how Seth MacFarlane felt about Brian and Stewie. When Family Guy first came out, those are two characters that like had nothing to do with each other. Brian was Peter's best friend and Stewie was in his own little world trying to kill Lois. But as the characters evolved, they put those two together, and now we can't imagine that show without those two together. This is the same exact thing. As the story came to be, and as the story was told to us, it made sense for Hopper, who lost his daughter, to then take in Eleven, a little girl who doesn't know who her parents are, doesn't really know a lot about the world, and, you know, it really made sense for those two to become whole again. I would have loved to have those powers when I was a teenager, because I was an angsty teenager, man. I can't even begin to explain. So to slam the door just by waving my hand, that would have been way more effective. But the way that he keeps trying and he wants to be a good father figure, but he keeps messing up, he's never home on time, but as we know, the audience knows that they are for legitimate reasons, but she doesn't really see that because she's stuck at home. You know, there's just so much real. There's so much real there. I don't know how else to explain it. But yeah, it was really effective. And I think that Millie Bobby Brown and David Harbour did a really great job. I love the chemistry between those two actors. It's something that I'm really glad that they brought to us this season. I lied. I'm gonna add a number 6. Number 6 was the ball, the snowball. Now the whole season, Mike misses 11, even though he doesn't realize that she's like somewhere else in the town. She's actually been there the whole time. But you know, they're finally having a chance to actually just be regular kids and enjoy a regular night that kids would enjoy. It's a beautiful scene. But that is not what I loved about it. It's more Dustin's scene. Because in a few short moments, you get to see how scary it is to be a young boy having to ask a girl to dance. That is very hard. But Dustin, being the confident Dustin that he is, walks up to a bunch of girls and they keep denying him, they make fun of him, and the embarrassment and the inner conflict is just so real. I actually just watching it started to make me feel like, oh, I remember that really stunk. And then he sits on the bleachers, he's given up, he's not so confident anymore. It's actually really upsetting now that I think about it. He even wipes away a few tears, but who comes to the rescue? Nancy. And Nancy is popular. And Nancy dances with Dustin and tells him that he is actually her favorite of Mike's friends. I mean, that's nice to know. So now I'm just gonna talk really briefly about a few things that I think either could have been more developed or spent more time on, I guess you can say. Dacre Montgomery as Billy, I mean, he played a really great bully. I was angry with him the entire series because he played a really great bully. And I am glad that they gave us a little bit of insight and context as to why he does the things that he does, why he treats his sister the way that he treats her, why he's so angry all the time. But at that point in the show, I think either it could have been a few things. It was a little too late. It was almost like I was wondering why he was so angry and why he was so mean for too long. I feel like we could have learned that a little earlier. And there was something that I guess, didn't really make sense to me. He says to Max, in one of the episodes, he says, you know whose fault it is, why we're here. And then when we meet his parents, we meet his father and Max's mother, that still doesn't really explain to us why they moved. All it really explains is that their parents fell in love and they decided to move. I thought she did something. I thought Max did something bad. And I don't know if this is the case, but if he said, why we're here, and the reason is just because their parents got married, I think that's kind of a letdown. I thought it was going to be much bigger than that. Really quickly, a lot of people were complaining about this online. The scene between 8 and 11 when she is moving the train, is it like X-Men First Class? Yes, it is. Is it exactly like it? Yes, it is. Although, instead of anger in X-Men First Class, it's serenity. But yes, it is the same scene, okay? It is. Do I think that the actresses didn't do a good job? No, they did a great job. Did I think that it was a bad scene? No, it was a good scene. But again, I don't think that's a bad episode, and I don't think that that's not a necessary scene. I think that it was necessary because we need to know what 11's limitations are. So that's it, my opinions on Stranger Things Season 2. I'm gonna do another video about what I think is gonna happen in Season 3, so look out for that one. This weekend I'm going to Rhode Island Comic Con and I'm actually gonna meet Sean Astin. That is awesome. And it was funny because I bought the photo op tickets to meet him before that I knew that he was in Stranger Things Season 2, so that just makes it better. So of course, thank you again for joining me on another episode of Geek Level Asian. What did you guys think of Stranger Things Season 2? What were your favorite parts, and what did you maybe not like about it? Please let me know in the comments. I'd love to have a conversation with you about it. And like I end all of these videos, go follow me on social media. You got the Facebook, you got the Twitter, you got the Instagram. They're all same thing, Geek Level Asian, very easy to find. Go follow me on there. I'm very active on those, so if you have any questions, please ask me on there, or feel free to ask me below, and I'll see you next time.